Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Reynolds and Reynolds is a household name in automotive, and today we have an exciting panel that also includes SkaiVision. They're a new camera AI company that really works with turning cameras into mini employees for dealerships. Today we're going to hear some exciting things about the two companies working together. And Ted, we have quite the panel assembled.
We do. We also have Sarah, the retail perspective. One of the anchors of the roundtable, Ed Roberts, is with us, COO of Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine, who is both a longtime Reynolds customer, and working with SkaiVision as well. So, Ed, Greg, and Mark, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Mark, let me come to you first, if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit about the reason for Reynolds and SkaiVision's collaboration overall.
Yeah, I think about a year and a half ago, it was a pretty organic conversation in terms of what we were doing, everything they were doing on the Spark AI side, and it was pretty natural because we had a very powerful and strong commitment to a common goal, which is to speed things up and simplify it for the end customer, just a better overall customer experience. And how could visual AI and breakdown of video game film perhaps enhance some of the strong Reynolds offerings in the market?
And Greg Uland is the vice president of marketing for Reynolds and Reynolds. And you have the unique perspective of getting to see a lot of different companies and really look at all of the pieces in play from the Reynolds and Reynolds perspective. I'm curious to hear, Greg, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, from a Reynolds perspective, I mean, our goal, right, is to help our customers be as successful as possible, whatever that means to them. And typically in the service department, that means helping them find operational efficiencies to increase sold hours and decrease dead bay time, right? So no downtime. And when you look at tech productivity benchmarks over the last decade and a half, and I define tech productivity as the percentage of time the technicians physically in the store that they're working on a car, right? They're turning a wrench. When you look at those benchmarks, they're actually going down, which isn't the right trajectory for success. And there's some valid reasons for why they're going down. I mean, we expect the techs to do a great MPI. We expect them to take pictures. We expect them to take videos. So there's reasons, but we have to find ways to claw back some of that time. And if we can help identify inefficiencies in the process through AI, and specifically camera technology in this case, it can have a big impact on what dealerships are able to produce with little to no strain on the people involved.
Ed Roberts, stranger to the customer experience, as being an advocate for that, and also reducing friction and bottlenecks at the dealership level. Ed, speak to us about your relationship with SkaiVision and why you got involved.
SkaiVision. So I preach a lot. Let me lay the foundation there. I preach a lot to my guys here and out in the industry about understanding and picking up on cues where it ties to emotional intelligence, where you can understand how someone's feeling and all those elements. And SkaiVision just raises that level to a whole nother piece where, I mean, it's like walking up to someone, and if you're walking up to someone with a smile on your face, they can't help but smile back. That's just part of it. Well, in that event, that doesn't tell you what that person is feeling. So you have to slow that thing down a bit and either create some conversation or do whatever and read what's not being said at that point. Well, in this case, SkaiVision reads what's not being said all the time. And so that's one element where it really helps. It allows you to identify customer issues before you even realize that it's stewing, and you can go and be as proactive as possible on it. But then also, it allows you to identify it before it's a customer issue. The vehicle hasn't moved, it's done this, it hasn't done that. So there's so many elements that ties into it. And so the emotional intelligence piece is huge, but it ends up just being a small piece because now it helps with production. It helps with the proficiency of each of the bays and each of the technicians, because we're able to make sure it's tied to the right spot, make sure it's moving, make sure that, and if it's not, because we can't touch every vehicle, as everybody knows, we're a large store, you can't touch every vehicle, every customer yourself, but you got one that highlights the ones that may be of level of concern. And when you can get in and touch that as early as possible, an ounce of prevention goes a long ways. And we start preventing issues as they are starting to line up to do that. And then sometimes we just miss it, and we got to identify that the customer is upset, and it gives us a chance to go see them before they come see us. And it's just it's an enhancement on everything we do from a customer experience standpoint.
Yeah, it's like lifetime exception reporting, right, Ed? So you always manage the exception, and this gives you that live feed into where the exceptions are.
Exactly. I preach to my guys all the time. We got to be fire preventers rather than firefighters. And when you got something that's highlighting that something's getting warm, it's a lot easier to prevent the fire when you have something telling you that.
Well, Mark and Greg, Ted and I have heard, there's a lot coming, but there's something very exciting that we get the privilege to share with our audience today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. But we've heard something is due to be released collaboratively soon. Can you share with us a little bit more about what's coming?
Sure. We've been, I think, step one, something that we've been working on is getting everything off on the right foot with the customer. Really, the genesis of this was really through Eric Edwards on the Reynolds team coming to us with some ideas that if the customer takes the time and the effort to schedule a visit with us, the ability to really personalize a prompt greeting, that if we can make it prompt and personalized and individualized, so the digital service greeter will be a collaborative offering in which we take the first camera, typically at the dealership's curb cut, when we first get a view of the vehicle, and on whatever medium that the frontline employees are using in the Reynolds, whether that's the mobile app, or whether it's through Ray, or whether it's through the DMS screen on their desk, or the iPads through the greeting, anywhere the advisor associated with that appointment will be able to see who's about to knock on the door and for what, so they can greet them by name, even if it's on a big screen that welcomes the customer if the dealership chooses to, that's in the lane. So I think that greeting customers by name would be a pleasant surprise when they show up, to know what they're there for, and to understand that we're there very promptly to serve them. So we're excited about digital service greeter big time.
Yeah, what I love about this is it's a great example of how introducing new technology can streamline, existing processes, or even technology that has been used in the past. So in this particular instance, we've for years had an RFID solution, but it was reliant on an RFID tag being affixed usually to the back of the rear view mirror. So then a customer would go buy an RFID scanner, and okay, hey, we know this customer's here because their vehicle's here. But what Mark's team is doing is making that, first of all, quicker. So to your point, Mark, you got a camera outside, you pick up that vehicle faster, sooner. So maybe I'm an advisor and I'm not sitting there at my desk, or I'm on the phone, or I'm back in the shop, and today I get an alert on my phone that says, hey, Ed's coming in. He'll be here in 30 seconds, and I've opened the RO for you. Now I can go, okay, I got to get back up there and see Ed. So instead of pulling in, waiting for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, to him it feels like about a half hour. But he's waiting for 2 minutes. Instead, I'm walking up as he's pulling in. I know he's here. The appointment's already pulled up on my screen. That's really, really powerful, and it's simplified for the dealership to be able to execute on, because the camera technology is really driving it to start that whole process, and to start it automatically, where it doesn't take a person to do anything, right? And it doesn't take even a RFID reader to be set up in the right spot, or for a car to be close enough to it. The camera's going to pick it up. It's going to give you advance notice, and that process is started for you, which is really, really interesting.
Ed, here's an example of something you and I talked about in an earlier segment about now technology being able to help us build rapport and trust early in the process with the customer.
So a lot of times people are thinking that AI is here to replace people, and we really have to look at it through a different lens and say, how can it enhance what we do? And this is an element of that, and that's what I love. And people love, no matter who you are, you love to hear your name. And when you can come in and say, hello, Mr. Uland, I'm glad you came in today, blah, blah, blah. When you know who that is coming in, it feels more like a neighborhood service center. It feels like you already know. And you may be wondering, well, how does this person know my name? But you have to think in your mind somewhere they remember me, and those elements change the way you feel about the whole thing. And it's the bookends that you got to get right. It's the initial greeting, whether it's on property, off property, through the internet, whatever, and the exit. And when you get those things right, things can go wrong in the middle, and you got time to correct them. But when you started at the highest level by letting them know that you prepared for them and you knew they was coming and you know who they are and you thanked them right in the beginning, it changes the game.
Greg, I'm curious, how could the data that the dealership cameras capture be used in the future to enhance Reynolds' mission to offer every dealer every possible advantage?
Well, I get really excited about what's possible in this arena. So, Mark, sorry if I say anything that's either not possible or 10 years down the road or whatever. But I get pretty excited about where we can go with any technology. But definitely, the last 12 months has really proven, at least we've seen at Reynolds, just this lightning speed progression of what's possible. So, you think about some of what could be, and I do firmly believe it's really centered around a unified AI data layer, right? We have Spark AI, and that's our unified AI data layer. And what that does is takes all this disparate information from all these different tools and unifies it so that it's complete and accurate, and there's no duplicates across all the tools that are pulling from it or pushing to it. So that's really the underlying infrastructure that's needed to make these tools powerful. But you layer on top of that real-time visual data, and it can do a lot. Give you an example. And again, Mark, sorry if this is something that is silly or not even going to happen in the next handful of years. But think about I have technician data, right? And I know who's capable of doing what job. And now I have visual data that proves to me I have a specific technician that does a specific job 10% faster than everybody else. He just does. I don't need to know why or how, but I know that when he gets that job, it gets up on the lift and off the lift 10% faster than everybody else. When I know that and I layer that on top of my shop availability and my appointments coming in the next day, I'm going to start automatically feeding that tech that job when I dispatch the work, right? If I can improve my shop capacity by giving the technician that does the job faster that job every time, I'm going to do that, right? It's about maximizing hours. So, there's obviously a lot of variables in that, which means the visual data needs to be married with the rest of the dealership's data to execute, and that's why the unified AI data layer is so important. But what's possible when you have that, like I said, I get pretty excited about it. I think there's probably a million use cases. Mark, you probably have a ton more that you've thought through and rolled around in your head, but there's a lot of opportunity.
So I want to touch on that as well. And Mark, we're not going to give you an option on that. That's got to come up.
You're not alone.
We're dancing with that as well
hearing
because
that and working on it.
yeah, like Greg said, it's not just that this guy can do it 10% faster. It's he may be working on something, and we know that it's going to take 30% longer for this guy to do it, but he can get to it 40% quicker than this guy. So it's still at the time. So it allows you to dispatch the whole shop differently, knowing those elements, because now we can calculate the approximate time that each job's going to finish, and if it's with the right person, and who's the next best person if the best person is not available, and that's where it really pays off.
Mark, this is incredible to talk about because I mean we're seeing what Ed and Greg are talking about in other verticals. Immediately my mind kind of goes to sports. I mean, they look at every player, they look at all of the reach, all of these different components to make these decisions about their businesses. And this is really taking it to that next level with the customer experience. But I'm also curious because, SkaiVision is working on a lot of different pieces, and there's potential data points that really might help companies like Reynolds use visual AI to better help this customer experience.
Absolutely. A couple things. One, you touched on the sports analogy. And it really is amazing that if you look at like the NFL with their PFF grades that the video analysis assigns to every single part of every play to give a grade, and how big a part in salary negotiations with their agents those PFF grades are at the end of the day to perform true objective performance measurement. In fact, we are working with the team. There's a company that does that part of Visual AI that we're working with on a lot of things right now. So they do the NHL and NFL, but the ability to analyze that stall. And the first thing that we had to do was make sure that we taught the camera to recognize if there's a technician in the stall, a vehicle, both or neither, and at what times of day and what's going on, or two technicians. Right now, an exercise that we're going through with one OEM is looking at the math on two-person express teams, technician-wise, and is the unapplied labor of not bringing the second on, the junior, being offset, which looks like in large facilities that it's becoming more and more internally to us, looking at the data result, a no-brainer. That the being able to do a 13-minute job with two is compared to the 23 minutes with one, and what you can do with throughput down the line. I know Ed's got an incredible express shop there that I've witnessed firsthand, and those two-person teams and the way they feed and grow each other has other downstream positive ramifications as well. So but when you talk about the data points, it is Greg touched on marrying the software clicks and where the transaction, repair order, vehicle sale, wherever it is, compared to the data of where that vehicle and customer are, and marrying those correctly. I think that they will enhance the vehicle journey a ton, because at the end of the day, if we want to improve the customer experience, transparency is a large component. And if we can give the customer visual snippets of here's your vehicle going up on the lift, or here it is going through the wash, you're almost out of here. If we're able to enhance the vehicle journey transparency to the customer, then I think that they're going to get a better appreciation of everything that we do compared to the independents. And so our job is to take all the data points, let the camera instantly analyze what's going on, and recognize what's important. And then that's the 4 or 5%, flush out for everyone the 95% noise, get the 5% critical events recognized, and then perform the keystrokes or and send them over via API, or more and more these days. It's the something we're excited about, especially with Reynolds, is that layer that Greg alluded to with Spark. The MCPs now, the model context protocols, they are the APIs of the future, or the present, really. They're becoming. That is the way that data is transferred between two systems. And when you look at Reynolds' RCI approach with their published HTML and their real-time data, I don't think there's a vendor that doesn't need to look at how fast and reliable real-time data, from RO creation to edits to the RO to MPI going out, invoicing, all the touch points being delivered accurately and very quickly, and reliably with little downtime. There's no reason to think that that Reynolds won't continue in the NCP world the same way. And that's huge, we think, because we know that our agentic layer may be the choice of certain, dealerships may want to use Skyle or ours. They may want to use Ray. They may want to use any other system. But as long as we can provide the data, and even if we're providing actual keystrokes that fit into that, or messaging, whatever it is that the camera can recognize and send downstream, it's really up to the dealership as to how they want to deliver it through what system, and that ability to universally use the video data is a big part of our thesis.
So, Ed, let me come to you to help sum it up. At Bozard Ford Lincoln, you utilize a lot of Reynolds and Reynolds technology. How would you put all this together?
We have to look at AI as differently than what the industry tells us to look at it. The industry tells us to look at it to minimize labor costs and look at it as an opportunity to enhance our experience and allow it to our people to become more efficient, because it's not just that guy's 10% faster. He's better at that job. That's why he's faster. And when he does stuff that he's good at, he feels more fulfilled. So there's other elements that comes from these things that helps us immensely. And we have to look at it through a different lens rather than, okay, can I cut labor costs, to how can we maximize the experience and the fulfillment of our staff members that helps us carry this thing forward. So I challenge the audience, so let's look at AI through a different lens. And that lens is, it already has it in the name with vision of SkaiVision.
And Greg, I mentioned to Mark a few days back that when he mentioned the name digital service greeter, I instantly understood that. I understood the concept and how important that will be to all the stakeholders, including the guests.
Yeah, no, I mean it's exciting. It's an exciting opportunity. I think the implications are really speed and great experience. And to Ed's point that he just made, it's about helping our team, your team at the dealership, be more effective, be more efficient. When I always think about it, I grew up in retail. Grew up in a parts store and worked retail from a very young age. And it's really, really difficult to greet somebody with a smile when you got two phones ringing, one on hold, and you're trying to look up parts in a catalog. So any way that we can help the advisor in this example be more prepared to provide a great experience and greet that person with a smile, the better off we're going to be, right? And the better it is for the advisor, the better it is for the customer, the better it is for the dealership as a whole, and frankly our industry, right? The better experiences we can create, the better off we're going to be. So I love the opportunities it creates to empower the dealership personnel to create those experiences that everybody wants to. Nobody wants to be grumpy when they greet a customer. So if we can give them tools that allow them to relieve some of that stress and be happy when they go to greet that customer, let's do it.
And Ed, finally, for today, you and your peers right now, in the middle of November, we're in the midst of the fourth quarter, are making plans for next year, for 2026. You're putting projections together. You're making extensive plans for increasing revenue. What should we be considering as dealers, as your fellow dealers, when it comes to things like visual AI and enhancing that customer experience in the coming year?
Well, a lot of what you guys have heard in the audience about this through this whole panel is what this can help us do. And as we forecast what we can do next year, we always try, well, I think I can squeeze a little bit more here. I think I can do this and do that. And what we're trying to do is just do more with the same things. Well, there's tools out there that will really help us drive those things. And not only do we dispatch stuff to the right person, do we greet the customer by name and all of those things, but we can speed up the entire process so that when they do need something, when we do that video MPI, they do need something, there's still time for those things to happen. And then that layers in on the opportunity to be able to go out and reach and exceed those objectives that we set for 2026. But you got to look at tools that helps you get there.
Mark, where's the best place for our audience to learn more about SkaiVision, perhaps get some questions answered and take the next steps?
Sure. Yeah, at SkaiVision.com or send us a message at info@SkaiVision. And we'd love to site walk and look at operations because they're all different. Someone said earlier, I think it was Ed on the call, that it's typically the bookends you got to get right. And when we're looking at game film right now, we see that the opportunities are not when you're greeting the customer, not when you're giving the keys back, not when the technician's going through getting the great MPI information. It's in between when it's sitting somewhere in a dead space on the it's staging or ready to be delivered and not yet delivered. So I think that our big goal with every store is just to let's look at your game film and see how to maximize your best outcomes and produce more and minimize your unacceptable outcomes, produce fewer for next year.
All right, very good. We'll leave it there. Mark Queen, Greg Uland, Ed Roberts, Sarah and I want to wish you and your families a very happy Thanksgiving next week on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thank you for all you do for the industry. So great.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Always fun.
Everybody, take the next step. Reach out to Mark Queen at SkaiVision, SkaiVision.com. Learn more about AI visual technology and its future. Everybody, here we are, SkaiVision at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.